Hey guys, Mike and Brad here from Office of the CISO. Today we're going to talk to you about how much the U.S. is investing in cybersecurity in general, how that compares to previous years, and what we can expect from it. So stay tuned. So they say the two things that are guaranteed in life are death and taxes. I can agree with that because our government spends money just out of control.
Like it's going out of style.
Like it's going out of style. Of course, they're not actually spending their money. They're spending our money, which is why taxes are all but guaranteed. And, that causes issues for a lot of folks, but sometimes they do spend it on good things. And today we're going to talk about an article from Security Intelligence that specifically discusses the U.S. investment in cybersecurity starting in 2023, as well as some comparative numbers from 2022, 2021, and what we can expect from that, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody knows cybersecurity is pushed to the forefront on everyone's minds. If you run a business, you have to take cyber seriously or else your business will end up going out. If you work for a government state agency or a government federal agency or hell, even the local ones, cyber has to be front and center because one ransomware can ruin your whole organization. And of course, cybersecurity events are getting more and more sophisticated, more complex, and unfortunately, the quality of our cybersecurity engineer is not matching that improvement or that evolution. So, the first question the article asks, Brad, is, how much is the U.S. spending on cybersecurity, and where's that money going? So
yeah, the securityintelligence.com article, it starts out real quick telling us how much the government's spending. It's going to plan on spending in 2023 on its cybersecurity budget. So 23, they've allocated $15.6 billion specifically for cybersecurity. They make earmarks for the DoD, obviously, which is $11.2 billion, and then they make earmarks for DHS CISA, which is what is that, $2.9 billion?
$2.9 billion for CISA. Maybe the director will talk to us one day.
one of these days.
She probably hates me from that video.
I'm sure she's seen it too.
Yeah. We're famous. Hush.
Right. So that number, $15.6 billion, with $11.2 of it going to the DoD, that leaves $4.4 to be used with all of the other federal agencies. Of course, $2.9 of that's going to CISA, but that $4.4 number, I did a little bit of quick research before we started. I figured out that the federal government's overall budget was $6.27 trillion for 2022. That's down from $6.8 trillion in 21, which those are just atrocious numbers. But holy cow,
it's going to go up this year.
It probably will. It probably will. So with that in mind, that 15.6 billion that's a 0.25% of the overall 2022 general budget for the federal government. That's the total that they're putting towards cybersecurity total. Now, focusing on the non-DoD agencies, the non-DoD agencies spent $58.4 billion in IT, overall IT. And if we take away the DoD spend from that 15.6, that leaves us with 4.4 billion. And a bunch of numbers, I know.
So how much was that compared to their IT budget?
So if the numbers this year are similar in as far as IT spend goes, that's going to be 7.5% of the IT spend spent on cybersecurity.
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell you to shoot for 1% on the cybersecurity.
Right.
Yeah. So the general rule of thumb for most enterprise organizations is you can expect to spend roughly 1% of your IT budget on cyber to be considered doing it correctly. Now, obviously, that's relative. What I find to be the right way may not be I have bougie taste.
Well, and that's a general rule of thumb. I mean, some organizations are going to have much larger regulatory requirements than others, so that
the percentage may go up.
Yeah, it might, and that tends to. There's a lot of focus and effort that gets put into compliance and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think so that 7.5% is well above and beyond any rule of thumbs that I've seen as far as security versus the IT overall spend.
Oh yeah, and that's non-DoD.
Non-DoD, right?
That doesn't take into consideration DoD.
Yeah.
Which DoD is where all the cool cyber mission force teams, whatever they are.
Yeah.
We got 133 of them. They're wanting to spin up five more.
Yeah.
So we'll go from 133 to 138. I'm going to do some digging on that, see if I can find out what exactly those are and what they do. Because that might be something in itself that we can discuss and dive deeper.
That's probably pretty interesting if I had to guess.
And basically those teams focus on carrying out defensive cyber operations. So they're basically blue team guys. Actually, they're probably more so geared for purple team.
Probably.
We say it's for defense, but the United States is always on the offense.
I mean, we strike second, but we strike hard.
That's what she said. So, DoD, non-DoD, federal governments in general, they're getting all this money, right? How does that tie into the private sector from an allocation of funds standpoint? Because let's face it, at the end of the day, private industry is going to be the one that
supports a lot of this.
Yeah, because they're going to get paid by the DoD. They're going to be contracted out. But we have to have cyber companies that are efficient, that are going to do their jobs right and not just milk the government teat for everything it's worth, right?
Right.
So, but, how involved is the private sector going to be? Based on the article, what are they telling us?
So they don't allocate money directly to the private sector, of course. That'll happen in terms of contracts and things like that when they need specializations that they don't have in-house to the federal government. But what the article gets into is it says that the federal government is going to tend towards, they think that the federal government is going to tend towards information sharing.
And you're talking like ISACs and things like that?
I think so. I think they're probably going to look to expand the ISACs, and I would say especially in critical infrastructure sectors.
Especially with that
right
statement they put out.
Right. If I had to guess, that'd be where that would go, which is a good thing. It gives intelligence to private sectors that wouldn't have it otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're a little bit curious on what the U.S. is doing from a critical infrastructure side of things, you can look at our previous podcast episode. It's episode 4, talking about cybersecurity and critical infrastructure. Check it out.
It's a good one.
So, yeah. So they're talking about information sharing.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of consortiums, groups, organizations, collaborative events where companies like Fortinet, Pan, Juniper, all these big security firms, CrowdStrike and all that, they all participate, and they're supposed to share information to make it easier for everyone.
Impactful.
Some of those organizations take more than they give.
Fair enough, yeah.
I've heard rumors. I won't name names, but I can cook in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that because the equipment runs hot? Or, I'm just kidding. That's all right.
So, one of the things that the federal government is being asked to do by U.S. lawmakers is to work more closely with CISA and the private organizations that exist within said group, specifically when it comes to Russian and Chinese activity, because those are the two baddies that, for some reason, America is scared the most of. I understand China. I actually understand Russia. So they want more collaboration, right? They want us all to work together. Obviously, that's going to be a pretty heavy ask when you're talking about a government that has trouble telling you the truth on any given day. So if they can definitely follow through on their end, I'm sure the U.S. population and the organizations like ours, we're going to be as helpful as possible from a collaboration standpoint, because cybersecurity is a team sport, much like the article says. You got to rely on the people around you because you don't see everything, and different groups get hit differently, right?
Yeah, and that reliance that you're talking about, the article mentions that the government expects the other federal agencies to work with CISA a lot more closely. And I think that's what that's getting at. I think they want to use the CISA resources more broadly across the different federal agencies, probably as going on today.
I mean, they stood up the organization. They need to put it to work as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, and CISA does a lot of good stuff. A lot of what they do I see is being outward facing away from federal government. But I'm pretty sure that the federal government would like to use them as their own internal intelligence agency as far as cybersecurity goes.
As far as cybersecurity goes?
Yeah, we've already got an intelligence agency. We don't need another one.
We've got a couple of them. Yeah. So we've talked about the large investment that we're making for 2023 and kind of how they wish for some of it to be taking place with as far as like collaboration and things like that. We've talked about how it's spread out across the different organizations.
Right.
$15.6 billion is a big number, even for an organization, or even for a country of our size.
Yeah, agreed.
So how does that compare to 2022, 2021? So how's this growing?
So both of those years, the numbers spent in 2021 and 2022 were super similar at about $8.5 billion. So we're almost doubling what was spent in both of those years, which makes a good point. Like, that's the right direction. I don't know that doubling the spend is necessarily the perfect answer, but it does need more resources, and one resource is funding.
And that's a good sentence there. One resource is funding. We tend to be more hamstrung by people, not technology, not by money, but by quality people that are willing to be motivated and stay driven to continue progressing and learning and getting better at their craft, right? So this is at the federal level, right?
Yes.
You know, Uncle Sam's always going to be pretty good at the dog and pony show when it comes to funding and throwing it at things. How does this translate to the local level, the state level, tribal, and things like that?
So it doesn't directly allocate money to the state and local level, not directly, but indirectly it does. So as they grow CISA, of course, CISA is going to give good products for the world to use, really. But that also means that they'll most likely, they'll probably expand the ISACs, most likely.
And again, we are huge proponents of the ISACs.
Yeah.
Multi-state one.
Right.
I mean, they have them for various industries and groups, and they pay dividends. So if you're not a member, check and see what's available to your organization.
To your industry, right. And get involved in it. Some of them do cost, which isn't great, but
they got to stay funded.
Well,
somehow.
Right. And if the federal government,
they might not cost after that. $15.6 billion. But so if you work for a state agency, you need to be in an MSISAC.
If you're not already, which would really surprise me that somebody hasn't heard of the MSISAC yet. Why don't we put a link to the MSISAC?
Yeah, we'll drop a link to the MSISAC and the CIS website. In the show notes so that you guys have some path there. Because if you work in state government, you need to be in the MSISAC.
Quite.
Or chances are your state already is. You need to be a part of it from an intelligence standpoint so you can see what's going on.
Yeah, work with your state to get involved in it. But that's where I would see a lot of that headed. The federal government can't always directly fund security programs for state and local entities, but they can provide central services like the MSISAC and like CISA and all these things that can grow the security posture of the industry as a whole.
And anytime you can have subsidized IT security services at your disposal, obviously you need to jump on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you don't have to put money into. You don't have to develop. Just use it. And those two that I named that we're talking about, CISA and MSISAC, are tremendous resources. Really good for your organization.
Cool. Now, obviously, with the federal government pushing a lot of initiatives, requiring cybersecurity framework on some things, or at least attempting to. I can't remember if Trump actually got that all the way through.
Yeah, he did. It's an executive order, whatever his were.
Biden has come out, and as part of the 2021 Investment and Jobs Act, they have $1 billion allocated in grants specifically to bolster cybersecurity at the local, state, and tribal and territorial level. And they're going to distribute that over 4 years until 2025. But because of these initiatives and these bills being passed at the federal level, we're seeing state legislatures actually push through a great deal of policy and law as it ties to cybersecurity in general to make sure that the state population, state employees, organizations in the state are doing what they should.
Yeah. That their citizens' information is protected, that the services are functional and available, and all that makes sense. But they have to do it right. There was I can't remember the state. I probably wouldn't say it out loud if I did. But I know there's one state like ours. We put out what they named was the cybersecurity legislation, but before it got signed into
Breach
law,
Notification Act.
Right. Yeah. We had the name changed to Breach Notification Act
because it was not a cybersecurity bill.
Right. It had like a sentence in there, maybe a phrase about secure your systems or whatever. Nothing really with any teeth. Then there was another state that published the entire 853 moderate baseline as their law for cybersecurity. They like copied and pasted, boop, into their law.
So I used to have a high school teacher, right?
Yeah.
And she'd say good initiative, bad judgment.
Yeah.
She also said we moved like pond water if we weren't moving fast enough. That's a situation where it's good initiative, bad judgment. You need to have a policy or a law that says that you're going to have minimal protection standards based on
some
NIST.
Direction from
Right.
some body that can change those things as they change over the years. That's what this state ended up figuring out, was that the new revision of 853 was going to come out.
I was about to say they made Rev 4 law.
Right, and they're like, oh crap.
Now we got to adjust it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So all of this leads to some pretty promising signs for the future. At least people on the outside looking in appear to care more. Whether or not the caring will be placed properly and there will be the right amount of supporting information so that we can make educated decisions, that's one thing, right? But we do have, the article goes on to say, while cybersecurity funding is one truly positive sign, which it is, anytime you have people willing to spend money to better something, that's probably a good sign.
Right.
Now, granted, these people, it's not their money, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's in a lot of cases, it's still their budget to deal with.
Right.
So it's still their resources at their disposal. So it's a good thing that they're putting it towards cybersec. Yeah.
But the article does say that there are other things outside of money that lead to a positive look, such as the appointment of the USA's first ever national cyber director, Chris Inglis. I kind of get to the point where I feel like some of these agencies are stepping on each other. Maybe we have some redundancy in path. Maybe Chris could be the national cyber director for whatever. Of course, I don't even know if that's is that its own organization or is that within CISA?
I have no idea. Let's find that out.
Yeah. Google national cyber director while I'm looking through this. They do mention, the U.S. will need to constantly readjust its cyber defense posture and adapt to an ever-changing landscape. That's IT in general, cybersecurity even more so. So,
all right. So yes, this is the Office of the National Cyber Director. I believe that's an office that's part of the White House operations. I think he reports directly to the White House.
So he reports to Potato, and Potato says security. Let me go smell something, and then I guess Chris then gives CISA and everyone else the guidance needed to execute their initiatives. I don't know. I mean, I did a little bit of reading on him beforehand. He seems like a sharp dude.
Yeah, and he's helping direct policy and governance and that kind of thing. So he'll probably work between the president's staff and the legislature to direct cybersecurity policy at the legislated level, I guess. I don't know.
Mm. If the executive branch ever wants to get serious about cybersecurity, give us a call. We're here to help. We'll provide free guidance. We don't care.
Yeah, we've been doing this a while. We got lots of opinions.
Yeah, especially on how you can do it better. So, but yeah, always evolving, which state government is slow. I've never worked directly for a city organization, but I assume they're even slower.
Yeah.
Higher education, Lord have mercy, they're slow. Federal government is always behind the curveball, but they tend to come out with something that's at least worthwhile.
They've got lots of good brains that do work for the federal government.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, we're going to post a link to the cybersecurity article the security intelligence article specifically discussing this. We would very much like for you guys to post your comments below about what you think with regards to the spending. Mm-hmm. Do we think that the U.S. government is going to use it effectively, or is it just a slush fund that they can then stand up their own cyber companies and push business to? Possibly. I mean, sure. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi's doing something, right?
That would never happen.
Yeah. Of course not. Our government is true and honest. Yeah. But anyways.
Good times.
Do us a favor, guys. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. But what I'm more interested in is hearing your comments about specifically this case. You know, throwing money at problems can sometimes solve problems, especially if you have the right brains in place. What do you think the federal government should do, specifically to help drive innovation as it comes to cybersecurity, but not just innovation from a technical control standpoint? How do we make it more understandable to the layman so they know the importance of it?
And
like little Susie needs to know that, you know, Mommy gave me an iPad. I don't need to do this, that, and the other because it could compromise everything. How do you?
Well, yeah, and I'd actually like to ask the comments. If I'd like to know if you guys think that the federal government has figured out well enough yet that national security doesn't just apply to federal agencies. That to have national security, we've got to protect our private sector as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with how intertwined they are now becoming. Because you have organizations like SpaceX. They pretty much do all of NASA's work now. Mm-hmm. And countless others that are doing, you know, you got Boeing, you have Lockheed Martin, you know. They get compromised, all of a sudden China has our fighter jet.
Yeah, which wouldn't be the first time, Yeah,
it happened recently, I think. But yeah. Give us your comments below. And obviously, if you are from outside of the U.S., this is just what the U.S. is doing. I'd love to hear what, you know, Britain, France, Spain, Germany, and all those other countries are doing while they're dealing with the issues and the use cases that they have. So, But yeah, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so that you can get, you know, stay up to date. The notification bell. That's a give or take. It can be annoying because we do push out a decent number of videos, but if you would like to be notified whenever we push out new content, hit that as well. Otherwise, thank you for your time, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Stay secure.